In 1903, on the plains of Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, this history began. In the granddaddy of all modern planes, the Wright brothers won immortality by sustaining flight in a heavier-than-air flying machine. There is no fuss or ceremony, no cheering crowds. The motors sputter and catch, weights drop, the ship catapults off the ground into the air for the first flight on record. Since then, aviation history is written in a never-fading book of records.
Amos Root, publisher of the magazine Gleanings in Bee Culture, drove nearly 200 miles from Medina, Ohio to witness this flight. The 9th of November, Wilbur completed almost 4 circles of the prairie, 2 3/4 miles in 5 minutes and 4 seconds. The Flyer 3, they learned to circle and bank and turn. Finally, on the 5th of October, Wilbur made the longest flight of the year, 24 1/5 miles in 39 minutes, 23 4/5 seconds, at an average speed of 38 miles per hour.
They decided to discontinue flying until they received the patent on their invention. The patent wasn't finally issued until May 22nd, 1906. Well, if the United States wasn't interested, there were a lot of European governments that were.
They traveled with their sister Catherine to England and to the continent. Edward VII of England. Wilbur was all but idolized in France. He broke the world's endurance record with a French journalist aboard. All this publicity didn't go unnoticed at the White House. The man who believed in the big stick wanted to be sure it had wing. The Wrights sold the Army its first airplane for $30,000. Final acceptance trials were held at Fort Myer, Virginia. Lieutenant Frank Lahm, the celebrated balloon pilot, was the observer. Specifications were exacting. It had to carry 2 people, sitting upright, and be capable of remaining aloft for 1 hour. And it had to pass a speed test of 40 miles per hour on a cross-country course. In addition, Signal Corps Airplane Number 1 had to be capable of wagon transport. They'd constructed a factory on Dayton's west side to manufacture their airplanes. By November 1910, they were turning out 2 machines a month.
The Wright airplanes were coming of age. They were very sophisticated in comparison to their earliest aircraft, the Wright Flyers.
Bidding farewell to his mother, Charles Lindbergh climbed aboard the Spirit of St. Louis. At 7:52 a.m., Lindbergh set off from Roosevelt Field on Long Island, New York. His goal to fly across the Atlantic. Lindbergh, dubbed the Lone Eagle, successfully piloted the first solo transatlantic flight, arriving in Paris in 33.5 hours.
1933, a famous Lockheed, the Winnie Mae, carrying a famous flyer, comes home from a solo flight around the world. What an achievement for Wiley Post. First man to fly around the world alone, and first to fly around the world twice, both times in a Lockheed.
July 2nd, 1937. 7,000 miles of empty ocean stand between Amelia Earhart and her bold attempt to be the first to fly around the world, following the equator. She and her navigator Fred Noonan take off from Lae, New Guinea for Howland Island, a speck of sand in the middle of the Pacific.